Welcome to Business Minds. This week, we introduce you to Sophie Beaudoin, owner of the MIM Models Agency and founder of the Viens, avec clothing brand.
You know, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that it would be surrounded by fashion.
In this episode, she tells us her story of managing two companies at once while keeping a balanced lifestyle.
I'm proud for all the risks that I've taken. I would say there's beautiful people all around us all the time. And for me, I see it more because that's it. That's my profession. That's what I do.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and enjoy the episode. Welcome to Business Minds. Today we are delighted to receive Sophie Beaudoin, owner at MIM Models International Management and co-founder of Viens, avec boutique and clothing brand. Sophie, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, I would like to ask you to define quickly in just a few words the two roles of yours that we just mentioned so we understand a bit better what you do.
So I own a modeling agency. I took over in 2003. Currently, I oversee day-to-day operations. I take care of local placements, which means when we place models internationally, I'm very much involved in the creative process as well. So developing the model, photo selection, I meet all new faces. And with the boutique, I feel like we're wearing many hats at the moment as we're creating this brand. So again, just being involved in the designing, creating the clothes, scheduling all the photo shoots, the social media, anything related to the website, managing our team. So the list goes on and on.
Perfect. We will have time to dig into it a bit more later. First of all, we like to ask our guest about their personal background, where they come from, etc. So my first question is pretty simple. Where did you grow up and what kind of job were you dreaming to do as a kid?
So I grew up here in Ottawa, born and raised. And when I was young, I always imagined myself living in New York on a penthouse somewhere. And I knew I wanted to be a businesswoman.
Okay, wow. And so at what age do you think you were already conscious about wanting to become a business owner at some point?
I would say maybe around 10.
Wow.
I come from a family that's very much the mindset that you can achieve anything you want and, you know, to go after your dreams. So, yeah, I would say at a young age, I knew I would be my own boss.
Very nice. And so what did you study? And when you were in your studies process, did you already have a clear goal in mind of where you wanted to go afterwards?
I always knew I would study business because I wanted one day to have my own business. So I attended University of Ottawa, and I studied in business. I had been approached with the previous owner of the agency before I decided to go to university. So when I graduated from high school, I worked at the agency for at least a year. I had also been with the agency as a model. And so when I went to Ottawa U, I knew that, you know, possibly one day I would be able to take over the agency.
Wow, so pretty early on. And
pretty early. She offered me to take over after high school, but I felt way too young and I still really wanted to pursue my studies. And when I graduated from university, the offer was still there. And so that's when I took over the agency.
Okay, can you tell us the story of how it happened? How did this person approach you when you were so young, and how did they choose you at this point?
I joined the agency at the age of 13.
Okay.
And I did a lot of local modeling. Then I started teaching at the agency. And during my high school, I was working and helping out at the agency. So I had a good understanding of how the agency was operating. And when I graduated from high school, I worked for a full year, and the previous owner had been thinking of selling, and so she approached me. I then felt, you know, very flattered, and I was excited for the opportunity. However, I still felt very young. I would have been probably, 19 or so. So then I was lucky and fortunate that when I graduated, she hadn't sold. And for her, it was important to sell to someone that cared about the agency and that knew the everyday, operations and to be able to take it to the next level as well. And so the offer was still there. I did a business plan. I approached the BDC. I had a lot of help from my father as well, who's he was a realtor for many years and great business role model as well. And so we were able to do the transaction, and that's when I took over the agency. So I was 23 years old.
That's very impressive to do all of this at such a young age. You mentioned your father. Growing up, did you have some other personal role models that inspired you within the course of your life and career?
Of course. So in fact, my family, both my mother and my father, were always great role models and great inspiration. Again, even my grandfather, like coming from a family, very business oriented, always, what are your goals? What do you want to be when you're older at the dinner table? So many questions, which was great because it allowed me to be confident in what I would go after. And I have to say one of my grandmother was a great role model and inspiration for fashion. She always had the best, sense of style, and I would get lost in her closet just going over every, pieces of clothes and jewelry that she would have. And I would just dream of, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that it would be surrounded by fashion. And
excellent. And so looking back at the journey of your career, you mentioned you took over the MIM Models agency in 2003. Can you walk us through the main steps of the process of what the agency was from 2003 to what it became today?
So the agency being established in 1970 already had a fairly good reputation. However, when I took over, there wasn't many models that were traveling internationally. We had a few local bookings here and there. And so when I took over, I also hired one of my great friend, also now partner with Viens, avec moi, as a booking agent. And so she came to work with me at the agency. And together we really, rebranded the agency. We reached out to clients. We did a lot of scouting. So working on our roster to be able to gain even more recognition and respect. And also doing that when I was young, I felt like I had to prove to everyone that, that I knew what I was doing and for people to take me serious. So, which definitely was difficult at sometimes, and created a bit of insecurities at times and self-conscious because I was so young and I had to manage, such a large roster and people with high potential and communicating with the parents and trusting that I had the best intention for their child, right? So sorry, I don't know if I stirred off a bit from your question.
It's okay, keep going. What is interesting is what were the main steps of this process? It's true that it's pretty unique.
I think the steps was a lot of, client outreach, marketing, and scouting, and building a great team.
Were there any key moments when you were able to sit down and say, wow, I really moved a step forward at this point?
I think when I scouted one girl, I scouted her in a Walmart, and she was beautiful. She had so much potential. She was only 13, and I was able to really develop her modeling career, and she ended up traveling all over and being a very successful model. And so that kind of, opened the door as well, right? It was great opportunity for the agency, great exposure as well. So
yeah, wow.
That was a great moment.
And so, as you said, you were scouted by the agency when you were a teenager.
I wasn't scouted. I had just decided to join the agency. Okay. I started with doing a summer camp program, which is actually something that we still offer at the agency. And then the agency, approached me and asked if it's something that I would like to do. And so I did some modeling throughout my high school and university as well.
Okay, pretty cool. And so this is what I wanted to ask. It seems like MIM is pretty open to all age ranges. Mm-hmm. Is this a specialty? Do many other agencies do this, or is this pretty
I think
unique?
It really depends on the market. For Ottawa, we're in such a conservative lifestyle market where clients are looking for models that look like everyday people. And so for me, it's important to have a roster that reflects that, to have a roster where we we can provide kids. We start them at the age of 4, and then we have models up in their 80s. And so, no, it's not, every agency that will be able to cater to such a wide range of ages. And on top of having also a high potential roster where we have models that travel internationally. Yeah. Some agencies focus only on just, very selective boutique agency, and it's only high fashion models.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so moving on to your other project, the Viens avec moi boutique and clothing brand, when did it started? How did it started? Can you tell us about the main steps of the story?
So Renee and we've always dreamt of having our own store, and Renee at the agency started getting involved in styling. And that was a bit of an eye-opener, seeing that we can offer this service to a lot of women in Ottawa, which is styling, creating, and putting outfits, giving them confidence, seeing how women want to feel and look good all the time, obviously, and also introducing lines and brands that were not accessible here in Ottawa. Everyone would always go to Montreal because there was never anywhere to shop in Ottawa. And so that's when it resonated, and we decided to take the plunge, and we started scouting different location. And actually the first location that we saw, we just fell in love with it. It was an old house. It was close to Westboro, and we converted it into a store. So we had the main floor that we brought in different brands, and upstairs we had a vintage section. And that's how that started. And I would say after maybe 5 years, we started introducing our own T-shirts that said Viens avec moi, sweatshirts, then a lounge line. And we saw that the feedback was so well received, and everyone, really liked it. Such a catchy name, Viens avec moi. And from there, we then decided to expand into our own clothing brand. And the goal became to one day eliminate all other brands so that it's solely just Viens avec moi. Okay. And that's where we are today. So we're finally able to do that. We've also now took the wholesale approach. So we have a rep in Canada. We have a rep in the U.S., so we're fortunate that we have some accounts everywhere right now, and ideally, the plan is to keep growing so that eventually it's a global known brand.
Again, very impressive. And this is something that we're curious about. How were you able to grow international like this? Because we know that everything related to fashion can be very competitive. How are you able
it's very difficult.
How were you able to get out of the mess?
I think for us, we were lucky in that we could listen to our customers. Women would come in, and we learned from that, every day, and really understanding what are they looking for, what are some styles that we should introduce, and that helped with our designs to also set us apart from such a competitive market, right? And being able to offer pieces that are comfortable, that are timeless, and at a great price point as well. And so to expand internationally, I think the key was definitely to be able to source the perfect rep for us that really believed in our brand and that could sell it to their own market. And same goes for Canada.
Okay, perfect. And so when was it created again? What year?
It was established in 2011.
2011, okay. So it's been quite a while. You were able to juggle with 2 different companies. How are you able to manage 2? It's already very hard for entrepreneurs to manage one. How are you able to do it?
I know, it's a lot. I think for me, it's always been so important to really be able to take time for myself and to listen to my needs, and to disconnect when I have to, and to live in the moment. And so, I do yoga at least 3 times a week, so that I can take, again, time for myself just to reboot, which is also beneficial for the business, so that when I go back to work, I feel, refreshed and re-energized, right? So I think the key is a balanced lifestyle, to be able to enjoy life to the fullest, as well as, I love working. I work hard. I also love what I do. So it comes easily. I think when we do what we love is when we're passionate about it. That's when we succeed, right? But yes, I think don't get me wrong, there are moments that it's not easy, and especially I have a family as well, and so there's a lot of challenges, but also just supporting yourself with a great, great support group is really important as well.
That makes a lot of sense as well. Thank you very much for this. Back to MIM again. So your agency represents over 200 models from various ages, as we say. You mentioned the story of the girl that you scouted in Walmart. How do you usually recruit or find these models? Are there a lot that come to you in the first place?
Yeah, so I would say, we're fortunate in that we've built such a great reputation with the agency that a lot of people come to us. So every day we get submissions online, and then we filter through and we meet with high potential models. We also have, scouts a little bit everywhere that are always keeping an eye out for potential models. And same with me. I mean, my daughter, she always gets frustrated with me. I embarrass her, she says, because we'll be shopping and we'll be somewhere and I'll see someone that has potential and I'll start running after them and I'll give them my card. And so I'm always keeping an eye out.
Would you say that happens often, that you meet people in very normal situations of life when you meet someone and you're thinking, oh, there's potential here?
I would say pretty often. And because I am also always looking for such a wide age range, right? It doesn't need to be a 14-year-old that's 5'11". So I would say there's beautiful people all around us all the time. And for me, I see it more because that's it. That's my profession. That's what I do.
That's nice to hear. Excellent. And so back to the entrepreneurship process that you had to go through. A lot of entrepreneurs are struggling with the fact of becoming profitable. So we understand that MIM was already an established brand before you took over. But what about Viens avec moi? Did you have any challenges becoming profitable? How much time did it take for you to get to that point?
It definitely took time. I mean, any retail business it's very difficult. Just alone managing cash flow and understanding the cash flow is a whole other department that, we're still learning. COVID was a very hard time as well. Right when we started getting momentum, we changed location, which was amazing, and it was the best decision we could have done. And then COVID happened. So we're kind of always just, it's difficult in that you're just always trying to keep up. But it is, profitable in that we see potential for the long term. But like anything else, you have to take risks as well, right? So,
Were there moments when you feared you wouldn't be able to make it?
Yes.
Really?
There was, yes. There's been, times where we've really, hit rock bottom, where we were like looking at each other, my partner Renee and I, and wondering like, are we doing this? Like, are we stopping? And I have goosebumps just thinking about it now. But, those are moments where you just wonder, and it's also a moment that can change your life forever as well, right? And so it's like, do we take the risk and move forward and, keep going for our goals and dreams, or do we just stop? Which for us, I think quitting would have been way too easy, and we've worked so hard, and so we still have it in us to keep fighting for sure.
Very nice. And so looking back at your professional journey with both entrepreneurship caps, what are you most proud of in your career as of today?
What am I most proud of? I'd say I'm proud for all the risks that I've taken. I surprise myself, and I'm proud for having done that. Also with everything else that is around me and having a family. And so that's something that I'm proud of. But I think also I'm probably very proud that I can easily detach myself from the business. And like we talked about before, being able to take time for myself and really, live in the moment and be able to travel with my family and sit down with my kids and create great memories. That's the most important to me. And so balance, and I think that's a hard thing to achieve. So I have to say I'm proud for that.
Congrats. This is quite a skill indeed. And so looking at the other half of the coin, what is the most difficult situation you ever had to face? And do you have now any tips that you learned from it that you could share of how to get out of these situations?
Difficult situation. I feel like there's definitely been some that have presented themselves throughout the years. I'm trying to think. I mean, COVID was definitely a hard one. You know, it was hard for everyone, and we had to quickly pivot and adapt. And so I think I see those moments also as any challenges, it's for the best in the way, right? Because we learn from that and it allows us to grow. And so when COVID hit, if I take the store, for example, it allowed us to focus on our online store, which is something that we kept putting off. And so by doing that, that's where then we started gaining momentum and, you know, you start building from that and growing. So I think we took a hard situation and we made the best of it.
Very nice. And so, again, with your entrepreneurship caps on the head, what are the most important skills that you have acquired in your life/career?
Most important skills. I would say one of the most important skills that I learned was probably not to take anything personal and to build a hard shell. Okay. It's an industry where a lot of, you know, people come and go. But it's not worth getting upset, you know, all the time. Not trying to stress over the little things is also not worth it. And that took me a few years, of course. And you know, still to this day, I'll have employees or new employees. And it's like something happens and it's the end of the world. And I try to let them understand that it's okay. You know, everything is going to be okay, and there's no point in stressing about it too much. So I would say that's one of the skills.
That makes sense, because when you work in fashion, you're exposing your own image a lot, so you must be exposing to a lot of criticism.
Yeah, of course. So you cannot let the negativity get to you.
Okay, yeah.
Because that's just going to prevent you from moving forward, right? So you have to really try and block it. And so I never really looked too much at my competitors either. Or if I had some that were perhaps, you know, bad talking the agency, I would never get involved. I would just focus on what I know, what I do best, and live my life.
Well,
you know?
This is, again, impressive, because this is very difficult to do. Did you ever have one moment to make you, like, build into this mindset?
I'd say I was... No, I can't think of a specific moment. I think, again, from a young age, I come from a family that's very, like, positive thinking all the time. Like my father, you know, I would go to school and he would be like, keep on smiling and shoulders back, you know, and believe in yourself. And so that definitely, you know, over the years, it kind of became who I am. And I still, though, to this day, I love books that are all about, you know, positive thinking and all of that.
Very nice. That makes a lot of sense. And so, now going into science fiction for a moment, if you didn't take over the MIM agency and did not build the Viens avec moi boutique, what career do you think you would have pursued?
What would I have done?
Yeah.
Perhaps something in sales. I've always really liked the sales aspect. Maybe anything related to traveling as well. I love traveling. And then I did a bit of acting when I was young.
Okay.
And so I think that's something I remember thinking, if this doesn't go through, you know, with the agency, maybe I should go to LA. And I've always wanted to be on a soap opera.
Nice.
So silly, but maybe that would have been in another life. I don't know.
That sounds good. Pretty cool.
I am also working, I have an idea for an app, but I don't know. We'll see.
Too soon to tell to the public. Excellent. Perfect. And so, in your opinion, what is the perfect profile for someone who wants to own a modeling agency like you do?
Good question. I think someone that has a motherly instinct.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we are a mother agent, right? And so we have to nurture and take care of these sometimes very young models, right? So having that in you is really important. Having a creative eye, whether it's for scouting new faces or putting portfolios together, composite cards, that's something that's very important. Being able to multitask. I mean, every day is different. A good sense of business. What else? Yeah, that's what I can think of at the top of my head.
This is already pretty good. Thank you very much for this. And now, last question of this segment. What is the most important thing you learned in school?
Oh, that was a long time ago. What did I learn? I mean, honestly, I think I learned more from my experiences and just being thrown, into the industry than anything. But if I had to think of something, I did learn a lot when it came to finances.
Okay.
I can't say that I've mastered it yet. It's something that I'm always, it's hard, but I definitely did learn a few things here and there. Yeah.
Excellent. Perfect. Now, in the next section, I would like to dive more into your vision, the way you see entrepreneurship in your industry. So the first one is, we alluded to it a little bit before. So being an entrepreneur involves taking a lot of risks, as we mentioned. And so you mentioned you're doing yoga, but overall, how do you think entrepreneurs, what can they do to cope with the stress of always performing to become like even or become profitable? How do you live with this difficult environment and difficult stress that comes with it?
Yes, I think, again, like we talked about yoga for me, and so I think it's important for anyone to find maybe a hobby or something that can distract them. Family, spending time with my children and my husband, and to talk it out as well, which that can be a bit difficult for me sometimes, because then I want to disconnect and shut it down, then I don't talk about it. Yeah. And when I find that, though talking it out, it can also relieve some of the stress, because sometimes you might, be thinking of something that in the end, it doesn't require to be so stressed. Or I don't know if that makes sense.
It does, yeah, for sure. And so, looking back, what would you say are the top 3 things that you wish you knew before becoming an entrepreneur?
Okay, good question. I wish I knew the importance of having a mentor, which unfortunately I don't have, a very close mentor. But I wish I would have known that, because as a entrepreneur, you're thrown all these different tasks and skills that you're required to be good at, So that is probably where I would have benefited from having some help. How to be a boss, like that's something I feel like I haven't really, no one taught me how to be a boss. And as I was thrown into it, there was so much that I needed to do. I didn't have time to also, be reading all these books and trying. So that's been a challenge. I mean, I hope I've been a good boss. I'm told that I'm too nice. But yes, just learning, tips and advice from early on would have been great.
Perfect. And so you mentioned the importance of having a mentor, but this is something that a lot of people talk about, but this is sometimes difficult to find a mentor. How do you think entrepreneurs could find mentors to teach them about entrepreneurship?
I mean, I was lucky in that I did have some colleagues in the industry that were very helpful when I first took over the agency. And one in particular, Nadia, who owns a modeling agency in Montreal, she was always so receptive and, helping me and giving me advice and feedback. And she still does to this day. So I'm very grateful for having her. But it is difficult to find, and a mentor, maybe not so much just for business, but that can help overall as well, for life too.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Because it's true, as you said, usually when you're an entrepreneur, it goes a long way until your personal life as well. So that makes a lot of sense. Now back to the modeling and fashion industry specifically.
Okay.
There are 2 fields where, as we alluded a little bit before, you have to expose your own image, even your brand image. So reputation plays a big role in there. How do you think you could build a reputation, what are the maybe the mistakes not to do? What are the most important things to focus on? How do you build something so important as reputation for a brand?
I think just being true to yourself is the one most important, to be kind. And that goes a long way, because when you also surround yourself with people that share the same values as you and that are kind, you can, grow together as a community. So I think that is what we did. At least I think that's what we're doing at the moment for the store and for the agency as well.
Perfect. So building a clothing line, as we said before, can be very competitive. What were the steps for you to become, to grow internationally with your brand? What was the process like to approach the big stores in the United States, for example? How was it like for you?
So, the big steps, currently we're wholesaling in small boutiques. The goal is to hit bigger department stores. But to rewind, before getting to that, we've had to spend a lot of time in researching for the perfect manufacturers where we felt comfortable working with, where we, knew that our products would be in good hands, where everything is, ethically made and sustainable. And so that took a long time, to be able to find and source those manufacturers. We also traveled, Renee and I, to Bali, where we were able to meet with them in person as well. And that was just very rewarding and gave a lot of peace of mind, knowing that, wow, these would be great partners to grow with and to work with, and seeing their families and their work environment. So we were fortunate to be able to have done that. And so that's currently where we're at. So just, working with these manufacturers, it's still every day a learning process as we're expanding. The shipping department is still very confusing at times. But yes, I'm always trying to, see what are the next season trends are going to be, and then focusing on what women are looking for.
Okay, and still on the international aspect, but on the modeling agency side,
Yes.
how are you able to reach out to places outside of the country to place models? What is the process like for you?
So we work with many international agencies. And so when we have a model that is ready to travel internationally, we would then reach out to all of these agencies. So depending on where we feel that the model should start, whether it's, sending her to Japan first, or to Europe, or straight to New York. So we reach out to these agencies. We send the models digitals and portfolios, and from there the agencies will let us know if they're interested in representing the model. And so we then negotiate the contract. If the model is interested, everything is good, then they would go to, the market that we chose.
Okay, does it work even with teenagers, or are there extra challenges because
There's
maybe
extra
they're younger?
challenges, definitely, also for the visas, and even for older as well. Like the visa can process to be able to work in New York is quite complex. Okay. So definitely for children, a little bit more complicated. But now there is a new law where a model has to be 18 to model in New York. Whereas before, I used to send models that were 14, and I once sent a girl to Asia when she was 14, and her parents went with her. So definitely it influences.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Again, thank you for this. Looking now again at the entrepreneurship side. So with your two brands, two companies, you explore two different kinds of entrepreneurship. One which is some more proper classical entrepreneurship, and with Viens avec moi, which is building a brand from scratch, and a company takeover with MIM, which was already created before. Right. How do you think these two situations compare? Were there situations that were easier with one or the other? How was it like?
Both very different. Great question. So the agency, as you know, I took over, and so the name had been around for many years. So that aspect was less of a challenge because it had already been established. but still required a lot of work to be able to rebrand the business. With the store, that was from scratch. And yes, we didn't really know what we were doing until it was just every day. We found our space. We went to New York, did the showroom, chose clothes that we thought, Ottawa would be receptive to, and then just open a store. And there wasn't even, I don't think Instagram was around then as well. There wasn't social media. So it was, harder. There was a lot of word of mouth. So people coming in, and we became a destination store. So I think we gained a lot of popularity and brand awareness from that. And then when Instagram came, I think, that helped to be able to really expand outside of Ottawa.
Yes, and this is another good point that you just brought, is now with both of your brands, you need to be on social media a lot. What do you think are the most important things for a business like yours to focus on social media? Because now, again, there's a lot of competition. Everybody's trying to use
important.
them. Yeah. What are the main tips you would say are the most important for you?
Yeah, I think just always, being able to post daily, like on Instagram, TikTok, which we're still trying to figure out for the store, but it is so important. And that's how a lot of business are able to gain their success because of those platforms.
Excellent. And also I wanted to ask, so you mentioned that you had to rebrand the modeling agency when you took over a little bit. How much time and what was the process like for you to make it yours, to give your own identity into a business that was, as you said, already built by someone else beforehand?
It probably took, I would say, at least a year for that process. So we, changed our logo and created a website. Yes, I think that it's such a long time ago, 20 years ago. So I can't remember exactly how long it took.
Okay.
But I think it became me, because of who I was scouting and who was working with me, and by associating again myself with people that shared the same values and ethics and goals, it grew and became into what it is today.
Okay, so back to being authentic and true to yourself, as you said before. Last question of this section. This is something that we like to ask everyone. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received? And would you give the same piece of advice to your 20-year-old self?
Okay, best advice I've ever received. I can't think of any advice that I would have maybe received, but if I can give some, again, it would come back to, being able to really take care of yourself, and taking time to, do the things that you enjoy, disconnecting from your work, to be able to build that healthy lifestyle.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And so also, as you alluded before, in addition to your two companies, you have a family that you have to take care of. How are you able to balance it all out? You mentioned you want to take time for yourself and do hobbies at the same time to disconnect. How are you able to juggle with all of this?
I have the best husband ever. Truly, he's amazing. I love him so much. He's, very supportive to anything that that I want to do, really believes in me. And so I think that really helps to be able to manage it all and to live a balanced life, right? And I do the same with him. He is also an entrepreneur and owns 2 restaurants. And so we really, complement each other in supporting our dreams and what we want. But yes, having, I also have, our mothers are amazing, and they come and they help out at least once a week. And so we're lucky, very fortunate for that.
Very, very good response. We're getting to the last few questions of this interview. So first of all, looking back at everything you've accomplished so far, what do you have left to accomplish?
Oh, I feel like I'm only starting. I definitely, still working to grow the brand Viens avec moi. and that one day it will be, known all over the world.
Excellent. And now projecting yourself a little bit, how would you like to be remembered by your coworkers and collaborators once you retire?
I think I want to be remembered as, someone that was kind and compassionate, someone that went after her dreams, was passionate throughout her work and excelled at it, all still loving life and living life to the fullest.
Excellent. And now, if you could have a private meeting with someone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive? That's a hard question. I'm going to go with Madonna. I've always really I've always been inspired by Madonna. I think she's such a fashion icon, very creative, great businesswoman, fearless, goes after what she wants. Yeah, I think I'd love to sit down with Madonna.
Very good one. We've never heard that name before, so that's pretty cool. And so final question of this interview. What can we wish you for the future?
Oh, thank you. Lots of good health, continued success. We're still looking again into growing our brand and taking it to the top. So wish me luck.
That's all we wish you then.
Thank you.
Excellent way to end an interview. Sophie, thank you very much for being with us today. This was Sophie Beaudoin on Business Minds.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lily. This is Lily, my manager.